It's Thursday, October 27. In the headlines, probe into mass fainting at Oberlin High School. PAHO called in to probe fatal infection at Victoria Jubilee Hospital. Regionally, Jamaica stands ready to assist with law enforcement in Haiti. And in sports, Jamaica Talawa's franchise open to creating a women's team. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. 12 babies have died from bacterial infection at Victoria Jubilee Hospital. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, confirmed that a total of 16 babies were infected as a result of a bacterial outbreak at the hospital in Kingston since July, and 12 babies have died. According to a report in the Jamaica Observer, the outbreak, which was discovered in July, saw 7 babies dying at the end of that month. 2 died in August, another 2 in September, and 1 in October. The health minister said he instructed that Pan American Health Organization PAHO experts be called in to do an assessment, which was done, and now he's awaiting the report from the PAHO team. Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, Dr. Wayne Henry, says the Jamaican economy continues on its road to recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Speaking at this week's sitting of the Public Accounts and Appropriation Committee, the PIOJ boss said a report from the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, shows that the country's economy expanded by 4.8% during the first quarter of the fiscal year.
Specific developments which contributed to the positive outturn for the quarter were increases in hectares reaped, which facilitated growth in the agriculture industry, increased employment and consumer confidence, which supported higher levels of domestic demand, and continued improvement in the markets of Jamaica's main trading partners that facilitated increased demand for industries such as transport, storage and communication, hotels and restaurants, which captures most of the tourism activities, and other services, which captures entertainment, sporting and cultural activities.
He says despite the overall improvement, further development was stemmed by a decline in the construction industry and plant downtime in the mining and quarry industry.
With respect to the short-term projection, the turbulence in the global economy resulted from higher inflation and supply chain disruptions, which were exacerbated by the Russia-Ukraine war, as well as a tightening in financial conditions, have led to several downward revisions by the International Monetary Fund, IMF.
He listed some risks against economic growth.
The main risks to growth for the short term are slower than anticipated recovery in the economies of Jamaica's main trading partners, which may temper the external demand for Jamaica's goods and services. Adverse weather conditions, particularly from hydrological events. The recent heavy rains from Tropical Storm Ian have further highlighted Jamaica's vulnerability as a small island developing state. Also, stronger than expected slowdown in domestic demand as a result of tightening financial conditions, and lower than expected capacity utilization associated with factory downtime, partly as a result of aged equipment, especially in the mining and quarrying and manufacturing industries.
Dr. Henry added that the risks also includes continued supply shock to the geopolitical tensions resulted in disruptions of production activities. For PBCJ News, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
Minister of Education and Youth Favour Williams has charged that the island is facing an epidemic of violence among our children.
Given this situation, we have to scale up our efforts quickly to have a heavy-duty focus on psychosocial support for our children, especially the almost 300 children who suffer some form of abuse. We have an epidemic of violence among our children, and that is just the hard, cold truth.
The Education Minister was speaking at a post-cabinet press brief on Wednesday. Minister Williams pointed to a United Nations Children's Fund (UNICEF) 2018 situation analysis, which showed that approximately 80%, or approximately 300,000 of Jamaica's children experience some form of psychological or physical violence administered as discipline. She says, given these figures, Jamaicans should not be alarmed at the violent behavior among our children. She notes the most recent fight circulating on social media involving girls at a high school in Westmoreland.
A report revealed that the students who were fighting were from the same community, and that their families were allegedly presently at odds with each other. It is also alleged that a simple disagreement started the fight between the students. Our students are showing up at school psychologically and physically abused.
According to Minister Williams, the plan is to reduce the level of violence in schools by 50% by November 2023. But that will need the active participation of all Jamaicans. The Ministry of Education says it is investigating an incident that occurred at Oberlin High School in St. Andrew on Wednesday morning. There were chaotic scenes at the school after scores of students became disoriented and fainted during general devotion. One student recounts, quote, "So we were all up there and we were keeping devotion, and they start to pray and teachers got into spirit, and a girl in the 11th grade, she's a prefect at Oberlin High School as well, got into spirit, and from that everybody start faint basically," end quote. It's not known exactly how many students fainted. However, the Education Ministry says it will provide details to the public on what transpired at the school. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Motorists should see a decrease at the pumps in the price of gasoline effective Thursday, October 27, according to the latest expiry costs from Petrojam. With both grades of gasoline down by $4.50, 87-octane gasoline will be sold for $184.66 per liter, while 90-octane gasoline will be sold for $188.64 per liter. Continuing with the $4.50 decrease, automotive diesel fuel will be sold for $223.57 per liter, and ultra-low sulfur diesel will be sold for $230.55 per liter. Kerosene, also down by $4.50, will be sold for $217.68 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum will be sold for $61.90 per liter, up by 84 cents, and butane liquid petroleum will be sold for $67.74 per liter after an increase of 91 cents. Remember that marketing companies and retailers will add their own respective markup to these prices. Reporting to the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee on Wednesday, October 26, Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, Richard Bales, says that despite a minor reduction in competitiveness of the Jamaican dollar on the exchange market, the country's gross international reserves remains at an adequate level.
Jamaica's gross international reserves are more than adequate to sustain us going forward. The current account of the balance of payments is projected to be stable and sustainable. In particular, the bank estimates a current account deficit for financial year 22-23 of 1.8%, which, while projected to rise to 2.7% for the financial year 23-24, will moderate again in a range of 1 to 2% over the medium term. The reserves are therefore projected to remain adequate to pay the country's debt and to pay for imports of goods and services over the medium term.
Mr. Bales says due to that fact, the bank has been taking necessary measures to maintain the dollar and maintain stability in the forex market.
Against this backdrop, the bank has been tightening monetary policy by increasing the bank's policy rate by 600 basis points since the end of September last year, now stands at 6.5%. And secondly, by pursuing measures to contain Jamaican dollar liquidity expansion and maintain stability in the foreign exchange market.
He goes on to outline future predictions of what these steps could achieve.
The bank expects that these measures will continue to 1. Cause interest rates on deposits and loans to rise further, 2. Make savings in Jamaican dollars more attractive relative to foreign currency assets and borrowing in Jamaican dollars more expensive. 3. In turn, these measures will help reduce the demand for foreign currency, leading to the continued stability in the exchange rate.
4-year market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, October 26, the US dollar sold for an average of $153.87. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $114.24. The pound sterling traded for $175.77, and the euro sold for $154.47. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 386 points. The junior market index advanced by 46 points. The combined market index advanced by 59 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 1,114 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 103 stocks, of which 43 advanced, 45 declined, and 15 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Cargo Handlers Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Weber Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares, Consolidated Bakers Jamaica Limited, and Epley 7.50% preference shares due 2024. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 12 million units, along with JFP Limited and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Plico Investment Fund was the only active security posting over 40,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, First Caribbean International Bank was the sole security trading 122 shares. In regional business, in Trinidad and Tobago, e-commerce platform Aeropost will be launching a smart parcel locker system. More in this report.
A new smart parcel locker network will be launched tomorrow by e-commerce platform company Aeropost. The company says this convenient and contactless solution can include delivery of a variety of items, including credit cards and passports. Aeropost smart parcel lockers are located at over a dozen locations across Trinidad, including its main hub at the Fernandez compound, Massey stores, and Unipet service stations.
In market data for oil prices rose, extending a rally of nearly 3% in the previous session, as signs that recession fears are decreasing outweighed concern over slack demand in China. Brent crude rose 87 cents to $96.56 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude gained $1.60 to $89.51. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denita Rodney.
In regional news, the Caribbean Community CARICOM and African Export-Import Bank have signed an agreement for the establishment of a partnership between the two entities. The agreement aims to facilitate cooperation, support, and provide assistance, and enable the promotion and financing of trade between African countries and CARICOM member states. The agreement was signed by Guyana's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Hugh Todd, and President of the Afrexim Bank, Professor Benedict Orama, at the Chedijagan International Airport in Guyana. It was overseen by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley along with President of Guyana, Dr. Ifran Ali. Before the signing of the agreement, delegations from Barbados and Guyana met with a team from the Afrexim Bank. Minister with responsibility for information, Robert Morgan, says the government has been engaged in talks with regional and international partners about sending troops to assist with law enforcement in Haiti. He addressed the matter during a post-cabinet press briefing on Wednesday.
Jamaica functions through a collective called CARICOM, which is the route through which we exercise international action in particular things. We also follow the precepts of the United Nations, and it is through those avenues that Jamaica acts in relation to international matters of this nature. We know that discussions are taking place. Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs have had several discussions at the CARICOM level. We also know that the UN is supposed to consider the matter and make decisions. And I suspect that before I can make a definitive statement, the Minister of Foreign Affairs will have to pronounce on the matter. But there are several things happening at the same time that I think she's awaiting on the international level before she speaks on it.
The United States has drafted a United Nations Security Council resolution that will encourage the immediate deployment of a multinational rapid action force to Haiti to address the nation's worst security and health crisis in decades. The draft resolution, confirmed by multiple U.S. and UN officials, comes in response to a call by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres for the establishment of a rapid reaction force to assist the Haitian National Police. Meanwhile, the United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator in Haiti, Ulrika Richardson, says Haitians are coming together to tackle the recent outbreak of cholera in the country. In a report Thursday, the coordinator indicated that visits have been made to several cholera treatment centers in most affected neighborhoods of Port-au-Prince, where alarming scenes of cholera disease were noted. In Trinidad and Tobago, for the first time in history, mass vaccination sites will be used to vaccinate the population for the flu. Health Minister Terence Dalsing said such sites that were used for COVID-19 proved beneficial and will seek to do the same for the flu season.
Health Minister Terence Dalsing received the first of 75,000 influenza vaccines that were ordered to inoculate the population for the current flu season. He said the vaccines arrived on Tuesday and hopes to start the vaccination process on Friday at health centres and Monday at most vaccination sites at the Diwali Nagar, the Paddock, the Sangre Grande Civic Centre, Miaro Sports Facility and the Gulf City Mall Atrium.
It is effective against 2 strains of influenza A and 1 influenza B. So they arrived yesterday. They are being distributed between today and tomorrow.
There have been 564 recorded cases of influenza and 3 deaths for 2022 so far. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Roshan Parashram pointed out that there was a flu uptick earlier than expected.
Normally the season runs between October and May of any given period. We're seeing cases beginning to show up in August. Noting in 2021, the early part of 22, as well as 2020, we had very little or no influenza cases being detected.
And the consultant pulmonologist Dr. Sana Mohammed noted that while symptoms between the common cold and the flu are similar, there are some distinguishing features.
Influenza can cause a more rapid deterioration, and you can go from being slightly unwell to seriously ill, requiring hospitalization within a matter of 24 hours.
Minister Dalsing urged high-risk groups to get inoculated, but cautioned that one could still experience flu-like symptoms.
Every year, people say, when they get the influenza vaccine, well, I still got the flu. The influenza vaccine is to protect you against the deadly influenza A especially, which causes the pandemic.
The 75,000 doses procured came at a cost of US $285,000.
In St. Kitts and Nevis, Deputy Governor General Marcella Liebert says the Citizens Buy Investment Program will remain an important element of the country's development while strategies are implemented to diversify the economy. She was speaking at the 25th opening of Parliament following recent general elections and a change in government.
Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew has previously indicated that economic diversification from an overdependence on tourism is a high priority to achieve economic security.
Our Citizenship by Investment program has served us well over the years, and we will do everything that is necessary to protect it so that it can continue to yield positive results for our country. There are, however, certain reforms that we must implement in order for it to be strengthened and placed in a position to remain a significant industry in our economy. Since taking office, our Labour government has prioritized reform of the CBI program and important administrative changes will be implemented in the coming weeks. While we are committed to working to strengthen the CBI program, we are steadfast in the belief that we must also advance an agenda for economic diversification. Our vision of a diversified economy incorporates the CBI program as one of the main pillars of development. This vision also incorporates the development of existing and emerging sectors that are showing potential for steady growth over the medium to long term. Notwithstanding the existing and emerging economic challenges of the day, our government is committed to the principles of prudent fiscal and debt management. We will collaborate with our international and regional partners, including the International Monetary Fund and the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, to develop and legislate fiscal rules to guide the implementation of government's fiscal policy over the next 5 years and beyond.
The Labour-led federal administration will also work towards prudent fiscal policies in governing the affairs of the country.
The Cayman Islands government has announced a 3-month extension of the electricity assistance program until December 2022. The program was designed to help residents manage during this period of unusually high fuel costs.
Cayman Islands government has announced a 3-month extension of the electricity assistance program until December 2022, designed to help residents manage during this period of unusually high fuel costs. Initially announced in June 2022, the program gave households a government subsidy applied directly to their electricity bills, reducing what customers had to pay to their utility company. This program helped more than 22,000 households across the 3 islands.
Around the world, the soaring cost of living is being driven in part by the cost of fuel and the resulting cost of energy. Here at home, our government is committed to helping our people get through these tough, challenging times by helping to lower your electricity costs by a direct subsidy to your bill. This will help blunt the impact of the sharp increases in utility bills for individuals and families across our 3 islands. Although fuel costs are expected to plateau in the coming winter months, fuel costs remain relatively high when compared to a year ago. For example, at 24 cents per kilowatt hour, CUC's October fuel cost estimate is double what it was in January of this year. This means that even though consumption should be going down because it is cooler, bills may remain relatively high for most households. The extended program will continue to provide assistance to over 80% of the residential customers of CUC and Cayman Brac Power and Light over the next 3 months. As a government, we understand how hard these times are for families, senior citizens, and young adults, and we will not make excuses or say that nothing can be done. That is why we've been working diligently since May last year to put in place more than a dozen initiatives to lower direct costs and help people protect their income as we brace ourselves to get through the economic challenges that will continue to face us for the foreseeable future. Yes, things are tough and people are feeling financial stress. But if we each do our part and we work together, we can get through these tough times. Despite the challenges, we have a strong and growing economy, and we are a fiscally responsible government. PACT is here to help, and we put people first.
In international news, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has faced the opposition in the House of Commons for the first time since taking office, seeking to provide assurances that his new government will offer economic stability and continuity after his predecessor's tax-cutting plans triggered market turmoil.
Prime Minister. A little more than 24 hours since taking the top job, Rishi Sunak stood in the House of Commons for the first time as Prime Minister. From the opposition Labour Party, an acknowledgement of the historic moment.
May I welcome the Prime Minister. The first British Asian Prime Minister is a significant moment in our national story.
But there was a quick return to rowdy partisan politics and a call for an early general election.
Let working people have their say and call a general election.
From Rishi Sunak, an echo from his words on Tuesday, insisting his mandate was clear.
Our mandate is based on a manifesto that we were elected on, to remind him an election that we won and they lost.
Earlier, the new Prime Minister met his leadership team for the first time, but he's already facing criticism for his appointment of Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, the UK's Interior Minister. She was sacked just a week ago by Liz Truss for a classified data breach, an appointment Sunak was forced to defend.
The Home Secretary made an error of judgment, but she recognised that, she raised the matter and she accepted her mistake. And that's why I was delighted to welcome back into a united cabinet that brings experience and stability to the heart of government.
Rishi Sunak was propelled into the job after Liz Truss presided over an economic meltdown in her first few weeks in charge. Now the announcement of how the government will repair the country's finances has been delayed by the change at the top.
It's also extremely important that that statement is based on the most accurate possible economic forecasts and forecasts of public finances. And for that reason, the Prime Minister and I have decided that it is prudent to make that statement on the 17th of November.
As prime ministerial debuts go, this was perhaps as good as Rishi Sunak could hope. But the issues facing Liz Truss haven't disappeared.
That completes questions.
And there will be tougher days ahead.
In sports, Chief Executive Officer Jeff Miller says the Jamaica Tallawahs franchise is open to creating a women's team to take part in the Women's Caribbean Premier League, CPL. The first ever women's CPL was staged between August and September and featured 3 teams: Guyana Amazon Warriors, Barbados Royals and champions Trinbago Knight Riders. However, with talk of a possible expansion of the league, Miller sees an opportunity not only for it to grow the Tallawahs brand, but develop women's cricket in Jamaica and the wider region as well. However, he says that no official communication has been made by CPL's organizers about an expansion. And that's it for the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBC Jamaica. And remember, we are the People's Station.